Hey there, fellow Trek fans, and happy First Contact Day. I'm Will Polk, host of Cine Nerd Presents Blerd Trek. Welcome to the channel. Today, we're raising a glass of synthahol to celebrate a momentous date in Star Trek history, April 5th, 2063. That's right, it's April 5th, which means it's officially First Contact Day. This is the day we celebrate one of the most important events in Star Trek history, the moment humanity officially made peaceful first contact with an alien race for the first time, the Vulcans. So let's rewind a bit about where Earth was in 2063 in the Star Trek universe. The world's just barely recovering from World War III. Things are very, very rough. But in the middle of all that chaos, one man, Zefram Cochrane, launches humanity's first warp-capable ship, the Phoenix, out of a converted nuclear missile that was in a silo in Montana. Because of course it has to be Montana, not New York City or anywhere else where a lot of people are populated whenever you have these types of first contact situations. But I digress. But the warp flight does capture the attention of a nearby Vulcan ship. And so, of course, they do come down and make first contact, and that kicks off everything we know about the Star Trek universe. We have the Vulcan salute, we have a handshake, we have a shared future at that moment, and that moment sparks everything that we know in Star Trek as far as the peaceful exploration of the galaxy, and eventually leads to the formation of the United Federation of Planets. But here's where it really gets very cool about the movie First Contact, because it's a sequel to The Best of Both Worlds. Now, that's one of the things that Star Trek fans really, really love, is that it is the direct sequel to one of the best episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation, and of all of Star Trek, The Best of Both Worlds Parts 1 and 2. Now, if you're a Trek fan, you are very familiar with the story, but for folks who haven't seen The Best of Both Worlds Parts 1 and 2, but probably heard things about it, Captain Picard gets assimilated by the Borg in that episode, and he becomes locutus and nearly leads the Borg to Sector 001, which is Earth, to wipe all humanity out. But the movie First Contact picks up not only from the events of that episode, but also the fallout from it, because Picard is still dealing with the trauma, as we see at the beginning of the movie First Contact, and it runs with it all throughout the movie. We get to see Picard post-assimilation dealing with those scars, and now the Borg themselves are trying to travel back in time to stop First Contact from ever happening, so that humans and the Vulcans can never meet, so they can erase the Federation before it even begins. But here's another cool thing about the movie First Contact. It's also a prequel, in a sense, to the events of Broken Bow, as far as the pilot of Star Trek Enterprise, but also it's a prequel to a lesser-known episode of Star Trek the Original Series, which is called Metamorphosis. That's where we meet an older Zefram Cochrane, who's totally gone off the grid. He's living on an alien planet. He's being kept alive by a mysterious energy being called the Companion. He's aging backwards, because if you see him at First Contact versus how he looks in Metamorphosis, he looks like a different person. And there's a lot of theories as far as why that goes into, which that's a video for another day. But one of the key things is that he's aged reverse. He's gotten a whole lot of Lost Legend vibe going on, which we also see that in the at least in whenever first Kirk and Spock and McCoy meet him on this planet. But we also see the whole living legend thing going on and hero worship in the movie First Contact. But it's wild, because when Kirk meets him, he is seen as a mythical figure, the father of warp drive. But when we see him at First Contact, he's a little bit different. He's he's a little bit drunk. He's a bit selfish. He even says his motivations for making the Phoenix was about one thing: money. And honestly, he's overwhelmed by the idea that he's supposed to be this great man. I mean, I can't help but think about the scene where Geordi talks about the statue and Zefram Cochrane High School and all the other things in it. So, it does overwhelm him, but, it does, in a sense, make his legacy even richer in the Star Trek universe, because He's a guy. He's not perfect, but he does the thing. He takes the risk, and he flies the ship, and he steps into history whether he wants to or not. So yeah, First Contact is more than just a date on the Star Trek calendar, and that's why this day still hits, because it's the turning point. It's the moment when humanity stops fighting and starts reaching. The moment that says, hey, maybe we're ready for something more. And in a way, that's what Star Trek has always been about. It's been about hope, that we'll figure it out, that maybe our best days are ahead of us. And especially in these times, in these uncertain times here in 2025, that is something that probably resonates even more so today, and why a show like Star Trek still resonates for fans like you and me. So, as we're here on April 5th, 2025, how do you celebrate? If you're celebrating today, here are a few of ideas. Of course, all of us, me included, will rewatch Star Trek First Contact. Also, queue up The Best of Both Worlds Parts 1 and 2. And also, watch Metamorphosis so you can see Cochrane whenever Kirk, Spock, and McCoy and the Ambassador meet him on that particular planet. Of course, throw on some classic rock. Of course, the music that was playing in the background when the Phoenix launched was Steppenwolf's Magic Carpet Ride. So I think Zefram Cochrane would approve of that. And then last but not least, post your Star Trek fits, your quotes, and thoughts using the hashtag First Contact Day. Let's fill the timeline with some good old-fashioned optimism, because good Lord, do we need it. So, final thoughts. I want to hear from you. What does First Contact Day mean to you? Are you Team Picard? Are you Team Cochrane? Or are you Team the Borg Queen is the scariest villain of all of Star Trek? But let me know. Drop your comments below. Give this video a like if it made your warp core hum. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We've got plenty of Star Trek content coming here on the channel, so make sure to subscribe. Until next time, live long and prosper. And remember, the line must be drawn here, no further. Had to do it. Live long and prosper, Star Trek fans. Take care.